I wanted to talk about the legendary gear system in Injustice 2 because I've been seeing a lot of outrage about it, which originally surprised me. One of you guys pointed it out to me on Twitter, and I was like, what? People are complaining about the legendary gear system? But this is such a cool system. How is anyone complaining about this? I only see positives here. So I started looking at some of the negative reaction, going through Reddit, going through Twitter, looking at people's conversations and trying to see both sides of the conversation. And I am never going to be here to tell you that you're wrong. So if you feel a certain way about legendary gear, remember that both of us are allowed to have our opinions, and no one's opinion should be held superior over another, unless we're talking about objective fact, because at that point it's no longer an opinion. But in this particular case, we aren't just purely talking about opinions. So if you're a viewer of mine and you're on the fence about this, don't just jump onto my side because it's what I'm saying. Think about it for yourself, and vice versa if you're on the other side of the conversation. So a bunch of pictures like this have been showing up on Reddit, you know, all these meme type pictures, and this is basically a good representation of what the other side's point is. For example, if we look at this particular comic book strip that somebody made, how can we implement legendary gear in the best possible way? Crazy hard challenges, only one piece for each character, and have gear based on the classic comic book movies added in mother boxes and in standard multiverse events, and then that guy gets thrown out the window. This is a pretty old school meme, but I feel like there's an obvious, really fundamental thing about this line of complaint. It's so clear when you look at this comic what the problem is. Your expectation of legendary gear was something entirely different of what legendary gear actually was. So because you made a ton of assumptions about legendary gear, you were disappointed. And yeah, I made a speculation video about legendary gear, and it turns out that I wasn't right, but I didn't complain when my prediction wasn't right, and I didn't complain that it wasn't exactly what I wanted, because at the end of the day, the result that we got is still good. Legendary gear is a fantastic way of incorporating more gameplay into the game. One of the big problems with fighting games in general is that there's not really a whole lot to do, especially if you're not interested in playing online, or for whatever reason you can't play online. For example, I'm in a really low populated area. Not only am I in Australia, which is already a pretty low populated area, but I also live in Western Australia, which is the lowest populated part of Australia. So I run into problems of even being able to play online at all. The only times I can actually play online is during the highest populated hours, which would be the weekend during the day. I can't even play at night which is a shame because it's the ideal time for me to play. There's just no one online because, again, I live in a really low populated area. So there needs to be gameplay outside of just online to be able to do. And whilst the standard multiverse that's in the game currently has a lot of replayability and I can play that infinitely and I'll never run out of gameplay, obviously there is a problem with it eventually getting repetitive because the multiverses are just an algorithm after all. They just go, hey, this one, change around the opponents and throw in Superman challenges or whatever, right? It's all just randomized. To some degree, obviously some of it is specifically designed by NetherRealm, but effectively it might as well be random. The only reason it's not actually true randomness is because they want the experience to be of higher quality, and if it was true randomness, you would end up with some really weird challenges, of course. So obviously that type of system can get pretty repetitive, so adding in an extra challenge system like we've got with Legendary Gear now is really good for players like me who have already basically quote-unquote completed Injustice. I've already got to the point where I've hit level 20 on every single character twice now, and I'm probably gonna do it a third time whenever we get a release on PC. So having an extra set of challenges in the game that is something for me to work towards is awesome. And even for a player who isn't like me, you know, I'm somebody who's gonna play the game way more than the average person, because obviously right now, the game is a massive passion of mine. It started my YouTube channel. I'm a huge fan of DC, I always have been. So obviously, I'm gonna have a lot more hours in the game than most people. And even for people who don't play as much as me, you're still going to be able to get a lot of gameplay out of this legendary multiverse. You're gonna be able to go, hey, my main character is Blue Beetle, I wanna get Blue Beetle stuff. That legendary multiverse there is still a ton of gameplay for you. Now, all of that being said, doesn't mean you have to all of a sudden fall in love with legendary multiverse if you were previously not a fan of it. But perhaps just tone it down. For example, I still have complaints about the legendary multiverse. Personally, I think a 1 million credit starting point is a little bit much, especially for somebody like me who, and obviously this is like a first world problem thing. I play the game a lot. I think you can get roughly about 5 million credits a month if you try pretty hard and you're playing a lot. But at the moment, at the rate that I play, I try to get roughly 2.5 million every month so that I can do 100 mother box openings on the new characters that are released for my big unboxing videos that I do. And because I still want to do that, because you guys love those videos, it's very hard for me to start a legendary multiverse. In fact, I have not yet, and I'm not even sure if I'm going to be able to within the next 2 months, because I'm going to want to be able to save up for, you know, Hellboy gear, Raiden gear, and that's an active decision I'm going to have to make. There are plenty of ways to save up credits pretty efficiently. For example, whenever those multiverses come up where you need to spend like 150,000 credits or whatever to get access to it, just don't do that. Another one you can do is you can delete all your rare and common gear. You can even delete your duplicate epic gear. I was going to say legendary gear, but obviously you can't get duplicate legendary gear. Another thing to remember is if you have lower level epic gear, if you get that character level 20 and then you use a regen token on the lower level epic gear, when you delete that piece of gear when it's at level 20, it'll actually generate a lot more credits for you than it would if you didn't regenerate it. Little stuff like that adds up, and you'd be very surprised to find out how much credits you'll actually get. The idea of these legendary items is that they're supposed to be fairly exclusive. They're supposed to be very, very difficult. If anyone here has played an MMO before and you've heard of legendary gear, you know how tough it is to get. If you look at games like World of Warcraft, a game that I haven't really played a whole lot of, but a lot of my friends do, and they like talk about how they had to do the legendary quest line for the new expansion or whatever, and this one piece of legendary gear that they have to equip takes them like multiple months to get. And whilst it won't take you that long with a legendary multiverse if you actually stick at it and try to play every single day, it's supposed to be that prestigious. It's supposed to be a big deal. Now, again, a player like me who plays a lot probably one day will end up with every single piece of legendary gear, but that should not be expected for everybody. Of course not, because this is supposed to be a very high valued item. I really can't stress that enough. There seems to be two big complaints about the legendary gear. Either it's not, you know, comic book stuff, it's not references to other gear pieces, it's not stuff like Green Arrow's hood, even though they confirm that Green Arrow will be getting his hood soon. The fact that it isn't these comic book related things seems to frustrate people, which I understand that, but they never said it was going to be, so that was just like a preconceived expectation that you had. And then the other complaint seems to be that it's too hard to get, but you want it to be hard to get so that it's prestigious. If it wasn't prestigious, what would be the point? I like this added thing of legendary multiverse rather than just throwing it into mother boxes and having it be super ultra rare, because this way we get more gameplay out of it. We get to go out of our way to get this thing. And again, it's more prestigious. It's a big deal when you get this thing. Anyway, that's been it from me. Thank you guys for watching this video. My name has been Bilbsy, and I will see you not necessarily in tomorrow's video. If Black Manta gets released later on today, I'll be doing more videos today, of course, because I gotta do Black Manta content. Duh. But if he's not released later on today, well then I will see you in tomorrow's video.
Holy mackerel.